Once there was an empire that held the world in the palm of its hand, but it wasn't Britain. In the 16th century, the world's greatest superpower was Spain. Stretching from Europe to Africa, from the Americas to Asia, it was the first time in history that a single crown ruled a truly global empire. People even began to say, "The sun never sets on the Spanish Empire." This phrase would later be adopted by the British. Yet one of the greatest ironies of history is this: the richest empire the world had ever seen collapsed because of its own wealth. After 1492, when Spain reached the New World, it believed it had stumbled upon an almost limitless fortune. Gold and silver began flowing into the country in quantities Europe had never witnessed before. In 1521, the fall of the Aztec Empire brought the silver mines of Zacatecas in Mexico under Spanish control. Soon after, the collapse of the Inca Empire in Peru revealed the enormous silver mine of Potosi. Known as the mountain that eats men, Potosi produced silver continuously for more than a century. Between 1500 and 1650, approximately 180,000 tons of silver and 2,000 tons of gold were transported to Spain. This was more silver than Europe had mined in the previous 1,000 years combined. This wealth reshaped not only Europe, but the entire world. Spanish silver leaving the ports of Seville and Cadiz flowed into the Mediterranean, to the Low Countries, and even across the Pacific to Manila, where it was exchanged for Chinese silk and porcelain. Thus, the first true global economy was born, with Spain at its center. While the English were struggling to keep Jamestown alive in a swamp in 1607, Mexico City already had universities, printing presses, and grand cathedrals. Lima was a thriving city. St. Augustine in Florida was the first permanent European settlement within the borders of what is now the United States, founded decades before Jamestown. Spain was not just ahead, it was far ahead of its time. Yet beneath all this splendor lay a serious problem. Spain had confused treasure with real wealth. The silver was real, but the way it was used turned strength into weakness. Between 1500 and 1600, prices increased nearly fourfold. Inflation surged, and basic necessities like bread and clothing became increasingly unaffordable for ordinary people. While the country sat atop mountains of silver, its population grew poorer. The reason was simple. Money only retains its value when it is scarce. When too much money enters an economy at once, and the supply of goods and services does not increase, purchasing power declines. This process in Spain became known as the price revolution. Too much silver, too few goods. This did not affect everyone equally. Those who accessed silver first, nobles, major merchants, and bankers, profited. Ordinary people living on fixed wages lost their purchasing power. The more silver arrived, the poorer the population felt. Worse still, Spain failed to invest this wealth in productive sectors. Instead of developing domestic industry, it turned to imports. Italian merchants, Dutch shipbuilders, and German craftsmen grew rich on Spanish silver. Spain, meanwhile, shifted from being a producer to a consumer economy. The belief that the treasure fleets will keep coming made the country's economic structure complacent and fragile. On top of this came endless wars. The Habsburg dynasty saw itself as the defender of Catholicism, and this role was extraordinarily expensive. Wars against the Ottoman Empire, the suppression of the Dutch Revolt, conflicts in France, and the famous Spanish Armada of 1588 were all financed with New World silver. The defeat of the Armada was not only a military disaster, but a massive financial shock. The wars continued, and the 30 Years' War in particular drained Spain's treasury at a terrifying pace. So where did all this gold and silver go? Largely into wars, ships, and debt. Spain was not only spending the wealth it had received, but also wealth that had not yet arrived. Future treasure fleets were used as collateral to secure enormous loans from German and Italian bankers. But when a fleet sank in a storm or was captured by pirates, the entire system collapsed. Spain declared state bankruptcy multiple times, 1557, 1575, 1596, and 1607. The richest empire in the world could not pay its debts. This fragile structure was further undermined by pirates. English and Dutch privateers were not merely chasing loot, they were waging economic warfare. Backed by Queen Elizabeth, Francis Drake plundered Spanish ships and brought immense wealth back to England. In 1628, the Dutch privateer Piet Hein captured an entire Spanish treasure fleet off the coast of Cuba. This single event was enough to shatter confidence in Spain's financial credibility. Treasure fleets were essentially the empire's payroll. The loss of one ship could trigger a full-blown crisis. England and the Netherlands, by contrast, reinvested the silver they captured instead of simply spending it. They built navies, developed banking systems, and established trading companies that generated continuous income. Spain consumed, its rivals built systems. That was the critical difference. By the mid-1600s, Spain still appeared on maps as a vast empire. But economically, it was hollow. Inflation crushed the population, debt chained the state to foreign creditors, and pirates targeted its most vital source of income. For ordinary people, wealth had become an illusion. Silver continued to flow, but life only grew more expensive. Spain's collapse is not merely a story about kings or pirates. It is the story of a wealth illusion. When massive inflows of money are not matched by productive systems, they corrode the foundations of society. Treasure is not wealth, money is not security. True wealth lies in systems that produce value, in enduring institutions, and in long-term investment. Spain failed to understand this. Its rivals did, and they shaped the future. History does not repeat itself exactly, but its rhythm is unmistakable. The real question is this: will we recognize the warning in time? If this narrative sparked something in you, subscribe and let's look at history together. I'll show you where to look.